All right, everyone, we're going to get started. Thanks for coming. This is session one of a course I created called CREST, Commercial Real Estate Success Training. It's different than Robert's course. I'm not sure how many of you went through Robert's commercial certification course or are still going through it right now, but that's very foundational, very basic. We're going to take this training to the next level. So in this training, you're actually going to learn more than the language of commercial real estate. You're going to learn how to do it, how to be successful in it, what you need to do literally walking out of the door today, getting in your cars, driving down the road, how to begin to dive deep into commercial real estate and actually recognize opportunity, get transactions out of it. So it's not that advanced, so I'm not going to be taking you through, at least not in this session, I'm not going to be taking you through like property analysis, cash flow analysis, how to do a pro forma. We're definitely going to discuss performance and projected revenue as a comparison to actual. So we're going to discuss all that and how it plays into presenting an opportunity, a deal opportunity to a prospective client. But we're not going to get deep into the analysis or the math. So this is not going to be a math class, but you will understand the value of that math. Does that make sense to you guys, kind of? So don't be scared. I'm not gonna, I'm no math professor myself, so, but I get by. So I'll take you about as deep as I know, but you're gonna learn a lot. Any questions before we get started? Anyone doing anything in the course? I want this to be, I want to invite discussion, especially if you guys are out there and you're active in commercial.
Well, I fortunately just received 2 commercial referrals literally last night and this morning.
Okay.
So I will go over that with you, but the one location is the corner of Sheldon, it's on east side 9.
What were the nature of the referrals? Are listing options or buyers looking?
One's a buyer and one's a listing.
Okay, wow.
So,
What kind of property?
well, one property, the one that's off of Sheldon, corner of Sheldon and 99, they have some type of business that's on it that brings in like $7,300 a month.
Is it a structure or a lot?
It's a lot, but then there's a facility on it. I just got the referral this morning before I came here.
Oh, okay.
I mean, so I just have
All right.
literally
Okay.
skeleton information.
So you haven't even followed up on it yet?
So
Okay.
so it's a lot of property, and then it also, it has like a business facility on it that brings in $7,300. So they just want to sell it, and then the buyer wants to purchase the property that they found. They gave me the address. It's near Florin and Franklin, and it's it'll be a multi-unit building for business.
So a multi-tenant commercial building?
Yeah.
Okay.
And she gave me the address, and so I told them both I'm going to meet with my guru this morning, and I will get back to them with something.
So how did you come across the referral? Is it a friend or a past client?
A friend of mine told them to contact me.
Okay. Does that friend know that, or was that friend making that referral knowing that you're a commercial specialist?
I'm special.
Yep.
Yep.
Yes, you are special.
She called me because I'm special, and she knows me. I've known her for years, and she said, I told them, if you need a realtor, this is who you need to call. So that's it.
Okay, and that's good. So you're one of the lucky ones. One of the things we're going to touch on here definitely is the different nature of prospecting for commercial opportunities than residential, as by comparison. And why I asked Lynette that question was because what I want to make sure that you're doing is that you're putting yourself out there as a commercial specialist. If you put yourself, you say they put it out in the universe, that's what you get back. So if you put yourself out there as a commercial specialist, not just a realtor, but a commercial specialist in particular, those are the types of leads you'll be more likely to get back because people will think of you as a commercial specialist. They know you're a realtor. You just have to now inform them and let them know that you're a commercial specialist in this industry as well. So if you guys can do that and begin to do this, it's the beginning of building this. It's not an alternate persona actually, but it kind of is. You've got to be that person, and it's different than a regular realtor. You got to put yourself out there differently, carry yourself differently, and as we're about to discuss now, look at the world through a different set of glasses than the average person and even the average real estate professional. That's what commercial is. It's about recognizing opportunity, and Michael knows that probably better than anyone, so because he's living it right now. But if you guys are ready, let's go. Anyone else have anything they want to share before I start? Any opportunities burgeoning that maybe I can help you with or help you develop, or yeah?
There's a gentleman here in West Sacramento, not here, but where I live in West Sacramento. I went over to his mini mart and asked him what he's doing, if he wanted to expand.
Awesome! I'm glad you did that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
He was looking to purchase a gas station. He was already in the process of that. Search went out, but he wanted to sell his current property at some point. But he wanted to wait until his taxes came in. He wanted to wait until tax season.
Right.
Information. I don't know if that's part of the process or if they can just show me
It's pretty normal, yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So he wants to wait till that point. And I'm also working with the core program, a program that's dealing with City Hall. I'm going to the City Hall meetings, and they're going to be lifting the cap on the amount of dispensaries that can be open in Sacramento.
Yeah, on the cannabis side.
Yeah, on the cannabis side. And so people are going to the manufacturing space, they're in the distribution space, because there's a lot of individuals in these, but they're only going to look at cap for participants in that core program.
Right.
The core program being individuals who have gone through training, they've gone through certain steps to know what they're doing essentially, and starting such business. But they have their financing. So they're going to be looking at cap, but only for those individuals. So I've been trying to get into that circle of people because they're going to want space pretty soon, really soon.
Okay.
And City Hall is on it right now. We're ready to look at those caps.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, even beyond your specific story, the actions you're taking are extremely important, and I want to convey that to everyone. It's beyond just putting yourself out there as a commercial specialist. It's getting into the world and operating and conducting yourself as a commercial specialist. What Giorgio is doing is the mini mart. You went in and talked to them and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about expanding?" That's what commercial specialists do. You look for opportunity. One of my models, we're going to get into it, commercial opportunities don't happen to you. They don't happen for you. They happen because of you. You generate them. And we're going to talk a lot about that. You're going to see that as a consistent theme throughout this entire CREST curriculum. So that's a great job. And keep developing that. Have you talked to Lamar? Have you and Lamar?
I haven't got a chance to chat with him.
He's right behind you there.
Very good.
That is just one of the many niches that Lamar has particular expertise in. So you guys should absolutely chat, collaborate. He's on the finance side of that. And he could, at the very least, maybe advise you and even talk to prospects for you. So you guys should collaborate. See, it's already happened. I haven't started yet. All right, let's go. Anyone else want to share anything? I don't want to cut anybody's opportunity. Michael, anybody?
I mean, today's meeting went pretty well. They definitely received.
Was his name Rob? Was I right?
Yeah, you're
Thank
right.
God. All right, I couldn't remember for sure.
Yeah, so he said that it's interesting because I remember earlier talking about the sales, but he actually, the first thing he started talking about was, how he was going to put an LOI on 80 South.
Yeah.
And so, but you guys were way off
Yeah.
on price. I'm like, well,
And he wanted to do 65,000 for finished lots over there, and they'll be worth about 125,000.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
But so he is still interested, I think. But maybe you can come back to the table with that. And then the other thing is, I told him we were still interested in being their sales team.
Right.
And
How'd that go over?
He was very positive about it. He says that he's talked to corporate, and they are at the phase where they think by this summer they'll have their 37 home vertical.
Okay.
So I think it went well.
Very good. So what Michael is talking about is an opportunity that we're developing. We have a listing on South Avenue in North Sacramento. It's a land listing with a final map to build 35 homes. So we're selling the final map. We're selling the improved land. There's no physical improvements, but it's entitled, so it's improved. And it's that final map with conditions, of 6 or 7 conditions. So we're in escrow right now for that one at about $950,000, I think, with a seller carry component. But there's a development literally, I think maybe 600 feet away, 100 and, what are they building, 117?
160 homes, right?
167. 167 homes, they are under construction, they've already graded the lot, they're well beyond where our lot is, and they're a lot larger. They've got 17 acres, we're on 5 acres roughly. The opportunity is that when we walked over there, we drove over there, and we walked onto the site, and we're like, well, let's talk to the project manager and see who's gonna be selling their homes after they're done building them. And we just struck up a conversation. Turns out this guy's not just a project manager, although that's what he says he is. But the conversations I've had with him and the engagements that Michael and I have had with him, it's clear that even though he's not admitting it, he's involved as a principal in this company, CEC. It's a regional home builder. They've got a pretty decent development in Elk Grove as well, so they're a regional local builder, but they do pretty well. So 167 homes is what they're building over there. They plan to be market ready with phase 1, February, March, whenever, but they haven't selected a sales team yet, and they don't do sales themselves. So they build these homes. You go to a new home development, there's models, there's a trailer, and there's real estate agents in there selling the homes. Well, that's called the sales team. They don't have one. That's an opportunity. So we're going in there talking, so who's selling your homes when you guys are done? And you gotta do it now, because a little bit later on, they will have already contracted that out as they get closer. They're not gonna wait. There's models saying, oh, I guess we gotta hire some real estate agents to sit in there. No, they've done that well in advance. So we're there at the appropriate time. They haven't made that decision yet. So we're just like going there. The first time we went, we just chatted. The next time we went, we brought pizza for the crew. And Michael, what'd you bring them today?
Croissant sandwiches.
Croissant sandwiches today for the crew. Believe me, these are construction guys. When you walk on the site and you got food, they're like, yeah. And then the next time they see you coming, they're looking to see what you brought. And that's how you build relationships, and that's a lot of what commercial is. It's finding the opportunity and doing what you have to do relationship-wise and building to solidify the relationship so you can get the business. So you at least have the opportunity to present your vision for how you can be a value add to what they're doing. So if we can get a sales contract, that benefits all of you, because I can't sit over there 16 hours a day or 12 hours a day or 8 hours a day or even 4. So we would rotate that out in a shift. So it's an opportunity for everybody. It's Michael's capture, but you know, even Michael, he'd probably get a share of, but he can't sit there, you know, all day, every day to sell 167 homes. And they will sell, because there's another builder less than 1/8 of a mile away from that. They built the Rio Linda development. It's not Rio Linda and Ephesus. They're called Riverland Homes, another regional builder. They finished their developments, 48 homes, and they sold them all. They're still building the houses, but they're all sold. And this is less than 1/8 of a mile away, similar home style. So that's just recognizing opportunities. Sometimes you look at dirt, and it's not just dirt. There's opportunity there. Sometimes you look at a construction project, and you think, well, they already got all their stuff together. They're already grading the ground. They've got construction crews out there. No, walk on the site, ask to speak to the project manager. Introduce yourself, give them your card. Hey, where are you guys at with sales? Sometimes they have their own internal sales force, but most builders don't, because they don't want to deal with it. They just want to build, sit a sales team in there, and move on to their next development. So there's opportunity. Another word and a common theme you're going to hear all day, every day. So thank you for that. But yeah, it's just happened from, we got a listing and looked around the area and it's like, hey, let's go talk to them. Let's go talk to these guys too. And that's how you do it.
Congratulations, that's not
Yeah. And they have an Elk Grove development. That Elk Grove development is, I think, closer to 200 homes.
Wow.
So when they're finished with they call it Morrison Avenue Estates over there. When they're done with that, or at least they've got the sales office and the models erected, they're gonna start plowing through on their Elk Grove development. If we can prove ourselves and get a sales contract, and even a partial contract, so maybe our team doesn't get the entire contract to sell all the homes, but we're rotating in with the Keller Williams group, and so we're different hours of the day, we've got different teams there, and we would have some of that time. We can sell a lot of homes in some of that time,
Right.
a lot of homes. And if we prove ourselves there, who's to say we don't have an opportunity to sit in the sales office at our Elk Grove development,
Right.
sell our share of another 200 homes in Elk Grove, higher price point than North Sac, by the way,
Right.
right?
Right.
That's how this works. Great story. Let's go. So we're gonna start with asset types. I'm gonna do some basic foundational stuff, but not a lot, and I'm gonna try to just make sure that everyone in the room, before I move from one to the next, I wanna make sure that everyone in the room has a grasp of what we're saying. And I'm glad to see you're taking notes. I think I've been saying that, so take notes. I can make this presentation, the session one presentation, available to all of you. Just ask me for it, send me an email, let me know you want it, I'll shoot it to you. So we've got different asset types that make up commercial for the most part. I've left some out because they're not important, but there's more coming. But retail strips, if there's any confusion as to what that is, a retail strip and a retail center, they're two different things. A retail strip is like the one next to this building that Robert built. So Robert built this entire complex. This is and we're gonna get into it, a standalone office building. That's a multi-tenant office building. And then over here, you have a strip, a retail strip. The difference between a retail strip and a retail center is size. A retail strip is like you see here, they're a dime a dozen, they're all up and down the street. A retail center is where you pull into Delta Shores on a very large side, but that's a retail center. You've got lots of regional anchor tenants, national, some national, a lot of big regional credit tenants. That's a retail center, big complex like that. You've got Regal Theaters in there, so that's a retail center. This is a retail strip. And the only difference, again, is size. They pay off the same way to investors. A lot of times in regional centers, however, they're bigger tenants. Some of them might own their pad, so they want to buy that pad, and they're paying a ground lease to the owner. Retail strips, however, it's just a building, and they're renting space per square foot at market rate rents. So they might rent 1,200 foot space in your strip center to do their tailor shop or their card store, whatever they have, whatever kind of small business they have. So that's really the difference. And most people who start with retail strips, their goal or objective or dream, if you will, is even to graduate to retail centers. It just means more money, bigger returns, higher value tenants. So again, we talked about standalone. This is a standalone office, but you can have standalone retail. So Costco is a standalone retail. Back in the day when you had like Kragen's and stuff and they weren't in strip centers, they had standalone stores as well. A pad is, like I said, where the company comes in and they want to own their own real estate. A lot of times franchises do that. They'll come in, they'll buy the pad and build their shop, whether it's a Jack-in-the-Box or whatever, standalone retail or restaurant pads. But the good thing is the owner of that center, you still collect rent from them because you've got them in a ground lease. So they're literally paying for the ground underneath their structure. But you don't own the structure, you own the ground underneath it. So you can actually sell that pad or engage in a ground lease with that pad. Triple net is what a lot of this is all about. Triple net is the gold standard. Anybody know what triple net is? Just real quick. Well, I'll go with that. They pay everything. So triple net is a triple net lease. So it's a lease where the commercial lease where the tenant pays the annual property tax, the annual property insurance, and the annual property maintenance. So the tenants all collectively pay that, and the way it's done is you devise a triple net value. So let's say market rate rent for the space it's a 2,000 square foot space, and market rate rent is $2 per foot in an annual lease. I'm sorry, in a monthly lease. So it's $2 per foot per month. Then the triple net value, let's say it's 45 cents. So that means the monthly rent collected, it would be 45 cents per foot. The monthly rent collected would be $2.45 from that tenant renting that 2,000 square foot space. The way it's devised is very simple. The property owner takes their annual tax, their annual insurance, and their annual maintenance cost, add those three together, divide it by the total leasable square footage in the structure, in the strip center, and that's how they come up with 45 cents per foot, or 37, or 16, whatever it might be. It's just a simple process of addition and then division. You add those three expense items up on your annual P&L, and then you divide that by the number of square feet, leasable square feet in the structure. The benefit of triple net is they're cash cows because everything you collect is profit. The tenant's paying their lease. So on a $2 foot, in this example, the $2 per foot per month lease rate, market rate lease, they're covering your debt service. So if you have a mortgage on the property, a commercial loan, you're collecting rent. Hopefully, if you've purchased wisely, then just what you're collecting in half the rent from half the tenants should be sufficient, or less than half, actually, should be sufficient to cover the cost of your debt service, your loan. Now you've got other expenses as a property owner. You've got annual tax, you've got annual property insurance, and you've got annual maintenance. You got to keep the place clean and tidy, and light bulbs go out or fixtures go down, AC or HVAC units could go out. Whatever that annual cost typically is to maintain those things, it gets divided up, and the tenants are paying their fair share based on how much square footage they lease. So as an owner, if I own a triple net strip like this one, what am I paying? I'm not paying anything. They're covering my loan, they're covering all three of my big main annual expense items. Everything else I collect, and after I have those items paid off, is profit. I have no expenses. Unless I want to add something to the building or do a cosmetic, an aesthetic improvement of the building, paint, repave the parking lot or whatever. And guess what? Now I have funds to do that because I don't have any expenses. That's why triple net is the gold standard. It's most common, it can be found in multi-tenant commercial like the one next door here, where you've got multiple tenants in one commercial structure. Even though it's not necessarily all retail, it could be a triple net environment. I don't know specifically about Robert's building here, but it may be a triple net environment. But I can tell you that typically it would be, and absolutely typically a retail strip would be. Absolutely typically a retail center would also be under triple net. So all the tenants there are paying their fair share based on just division of square footage used or leased. They're paying their fair share of the owner's expenses all year long.
And the owner does all the capital improvements, right?
Yeah.
Roof or replacement.
But now
AC.
that's general capital improvements. If I'm a tenant and I have a restaurant in a retail strip, a sandwich shop or whatever it is, and I need a capital improvement within my space, like a better oven, a better grease trap, or whatever it might be, that's my expense. Sometimes you can negotiate it with the property owner, because by improving your space, you're improving his property. If your lease runs out and you leave, it's like, okay, you're either gonna contribute to the cost of this, or I'm taking it with me when I go. So, and because these things are expensive. A new commercial oven could be $25,000. You to have a grease trap put in, that could be quite expensive as well. So it's like we're either going to share in the improvement, because I'm improving my space, I need it for my business, but it absolutely does improve your property. So we can share in that cost, and to some degree we can negotiate that, or like I said, you can expect that it won't be here when I move out. So, but it's triple net. So yeah, the capital improvements like the roof, if the roof needs to be retarred on a flat roof retail center or re-graveled or whatever it is, that's the owner's expense. But like I said, because you have no other expenses, you're not lacking the capital to do so. So you can keep your building in great shape for the tenants. Commercial multi-tenant, Next door, single tenant, so if Robert didn't own this building, he was leasing it, this would be a single tenant office structure, he'd be paying rent for the building. Building's approximately, I think, 12,500 square feet, so he'd be paying a market rate rent per foot for this property, and he'd be the only tenant in here. So when it's a single tenant, there's really, I mean, you can add on the annual expenses and that under those items, those line items, to the rent, but it's just really not a typical triple net structure. And multi-tenant can be retail. That building there's the auto thing, the store in the middle, and whatever they're about to do on the end there. But this is more of an auto shop. Although they do sell refurbished cars. The middle is a Middle Eastern store, and then I'm not sure what they're going to do, as I said, on the other end. But that's a mixture. It's kind of like a mixed-use building. It could even be an office on the third wing there. I don't know, but probably triple net. So multi-tenant and single-tenant applies to retail. It can apply to office, commercial, medical buildings, or a good example of multi-tenant commercial space. Any questions?
With those are businesses already there, so could you sell the building and leave the businesses there?
Yeah, if you own the building, you can sell the building. It's just like any other, like a multifam. If you've got a triplex, just because you sell doesn't mean the tenants get evicted. If they have leases, they stay.
Mm-hmm.
So the new buyer negotiates and inherits those leases. No different. I mean, there are a lot of similarities between residential and commercial in terms of how it applies with regard to leasing. Multifamily, good segue. Multifamily, again, something Michael's very familiar with, but you got to know your market. I'm going to teach you guys how to understand that there's a lot more at play than just the building or the asset. There's new rent control legislation that's pretty much a burden on multifamily owners. Kind of puts the kibosh on the glory days of multifamily ownership, because now tenants have wild rights. California is not the place to be, regardless of what the kinfolk told Jed. It's difficult here to be a multifamily owner, so it's hard to get tenants out. You guys may have heard a recent story about these it was a homeless group. They recognized the home had been empty for a while. They just moved in. They were getting mail there. They'd actually made improvements on the house. And it was crazy. And then the owners finally were going to go ahead and because they own multiple properties, they were going to get around to improving this house so they could get it on the market, because it was a rehab for them, a fixer. And their crew gets there and they call us like, there's people living here. What do you want us to do? And the guy's like, there's no one living there. It's been vacant. What are you talking about? And yeah, these people just literally moved in and they were squatting. So squatters' rights, as they call it, have improved for the squatters in California, and it's pretty bad for owners.
Well, it's
your
funny,
clients.
the lady, I got into an exchange with her regarding this situation a couple nights ago. And you had people like, well, they need a nice place to live. For those who don't own a home, I'm like, okay, so you don't own a home, so you don't get this concept. Take your car, for example, you got 3 cars. You maybe drive 1 or 3 cars, maybe once every 9 months. Someone takes it upon themselves to break in that car, hot wire ticket. How do you feel? Yeah, right? And this lady here, she didn't even did her research on the squatters, right? She hadn't been there for 5 years and all the other variables.
Right.
But this stuff is going on.
Yeah. And it is divisive. That's a good point you made, because a lot of people are arguing, debating this on social media. They're like, well, they're homeless, they need a place to live, and screw the rich people. Well, first of all, the property owner's not rich. He invested a lot of his money to get this home, and he had another one he was rehabbing, and he needed to get that one done before he could rehab the other, and that's why that one sat there so long, because he didn't have that kind of money. He wasn't rolling like that. So to get to it finally, and you got debt service, so it's a monthly carry cost for that asset. Every day, every month that he owns that asset, he's got expense. And so to get to it, and like, okay, we got to get this one done. You get there, and there's someone living there, and the nation's all like, no, she has a right. No, she does not. She absolutely does not have the right to just move into an empty house and make it her own. I get the plight, but damn it, that's someone else's property and you don't know his situation. He's going broke carrying that cost while you're sitting in court and developing this whole social-wide national movement to support you. You know, he's going broke. He's like, he can't even sell the house because if I'm a buyer, an investor, I don't want to buy it. I'm not going to inherit your problem. Man, talk to me after you're done with this mess. Yeah.
Where's the, like, because I remember when I was younger, like, getting I heard about this, it didn't make sense to me. Where's the, like, how's this law, where's justification coming from with allowing these things to happen with squatters?
I don't know.
California,
It's
yeah, this bleeding heart. That's just California.
It's just California.
In Oregon.
Silviana has a listing in San Francisco on Willier, and we were all set. We had our buyer. He put the deposit in. He had a guy. He was going to close in 10 days. Tenant not going to move. She doesn't have a lease. Her lease is expired, so she's month to month. So they have this thing where you have to pay her to move. And it was gonna, and it's so common now that buyers and sellers used to, they negotiate, they split the cost. But I don't mean like a few $1,000s cash for keys like we used to do back in the day. I'm talking about $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to pay this woman to move out of my house. She doesn't have a lease, but if I'm the owner, I'm talking as I'm the owner, it's my house, I'm gonna sell it. You're paying, first of all, because you've been there for 21 years, you're paying way below market rate rent. I mean, she's living in there for nothing. She's actually making more money than the owner because it's been converted kind of to a duplex, so she kind of lives upstairs, but she's renting rooms in this place. She's got cash flow. She's smart. She's got cash flow, she's got tenants, she's making money, and the property owner's not making any money because she's only paying $800 a month rent when market rate rent is $2,400. And now they can't get her out. Our sale, which was supposed to close in 10 days, which would have had us close, I think, mid-December, we can't even close. So now they're going to use what's called the Ellis Act. They're going to evict her. And under the Ellis Act, what you're only allowed to do is evict them or get them out, and you have to kind of pay for their temporary situation. Then you can rehab your property as per your plan. Then you have to give them first right to come back in, and guess what? Not at a new market rate rent, at the same rent they were paying. So wait, I gotta move you for a second, pay for where you're at, rehab my property, invite you back in at half of the rent you should be paying for this space, or that I could get from another paying tenant. Wow, that's San Francisco for you. So she doesn't even have to move. She's staying there, and by the way, if you don't invite them back, if you kick them out and then rehab the property and say, screw the Ellis Act, I want to get another tenant in there, you get fined. So our client, the seller, the owner, is so done with this situation, they're willing to take the fine. They're like, how much is it? So we're looking into that. If it's like $50,000, $75,000, hey, that's cheaper than dealing with this woman.
Yeah.
So we'll take the fine, we'll break the Ellis Act, she's gone, now I've got an empty rehab place I can sell. So we'll probably relist in maybe 6 months, but the deal's dead because of this woman who won't leave. We could have written her a check. Our client offered to write her a check for $20,000. She turned it down because she knows she can get more. Unbelievable.
That's just evil.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable. But that's the reality, and that's what's happening with multifamily. That's why you've got property owners who own multifam who need to turn it, but property owners who own multifam where the property's cruising and it's cash flowing, then that's fine. But property owners who need to try to sell, they've got below market rents, they've got vacancies, they want to improve the building, they're stuck. So what do? Well, I'm gonna 1031 and just dump this crap. I'm gonna get into triple net. Screw this multifamily stuff, it's too hard. So that's where we're at. So if you're thinking about multifamily, think again. Maybe you should do something else. Look at one of these other commercial niches.
Are squatters more common in expensive areas, or it's just?
I don't know. That's probably a good question.
Coming down throughout all of California, especially in northern California, certain parts of Southern California because of affordability.
And guess it's probably more prevalent in the wintertime, you know, it's cold. But like I said, I understand the plight, but man, the law should not support that type of thievery, because that's literally what it is. So, hospitality, hotels, resorts, big business, but a really highly specialized niche. And the reason being is either you've got really two sets of buyers. You've got the big groups who just collect them like assets, maybe add them to their brand. So like the parent company of Comfort Suites would pick up another mom and pop's hotel, renovate it, change it out, put their brand on it, and add it to their collection. Secondary buyers are mom and pop's owner operators. So when you go into motels, sometimes you see the people, they live there. There's an apartment there, they live there, they own and operate that hospitality, that hotel or motel. So it's very specialized because, you know, if a family owns one, unless they've got more family members, they can't buy another one, because who's going to run it? They're not likely to want to hire someone to run it. They're family-run operations. So unless you really know or have those types of prospects or contacts, hospitality is difficult to break into. Another end of hospitality that's not difficult to break into is the Airbnb inventory and stuff like that. So there's niches there, and there's more niches there also on the resort side and the property management side of it all. So it's something you can do. It's something you can add to your focus. I wouldn't make it your singular focus. So it's a supplemental thing you can add to your business, but don't make it a singular focus of your business, because unless you're swimming in that, it's difficult to find. Industrial manufacturing, Giorgio is one of the niches he wants to exploit is the cannabis or cannabis side of things, and that's these types of properties. The industrial, manufacturing, agribusiness assets, large warehouses that can be converted, cold storage facilities can be converted to indoor grow centers and stuff like that. So pretty big and growing niche. But again, you got to have those types of prospects, and you got to know those types of people who are interested in that. And if you don't, go introduce yourself. You know, it's not like high school. They're not the stoners. You know, the people that are in this business are businessmen and women. Many of them don't even smoke marijuana. It's just a business, a highly profitable one. So if you can be a value add to that type of business owner, there you go. And that's what most of this is about. You find a way to become a value add to the parties and players in any particular niche or genre, and that's how you grow your business within that niche. You bring value, and you're going to learn how to bring that value strong to the table in this room from me. Gas stations. Gas stations are huge. Huge. You think, well, how can they be? The owner's only making 16 cents per gallon, 14 cents per gallon. Yeah, well, if he's selling 1 million gallons a month, that's not bad. Those pennies add up. And then he's got a store where there's a 65, 70% markup on everything in the store. The candy bar, although they make more money on the inventory vendors. So when you go into even this gas station, the Chevron here, you know, you've got, you know, your Snickers bars and stuff like that, the generalized goods and products. But then you've got like the pastries that you can tell come in from a local vendor every morning, the donuts, stuff like that, the food. So if there's hot dogs or stuff like that, that type of stuff, there's even bigger margin in those partnerships with the vendors that bring that stuff in. But gas stations are huge. One of the things driving up value that can affect I'll start there, one of the things that can impact value on gas stations is going to be the price of oil. So when you're watching the news, and again, this is about looking at the world through the goggles of a commercial specialist. Very important, a very important paradigm shift in your thinking and your viewing and observation of the world around you that's going to occur as a result of you being in this training. So understanding that when you're watching the news, they're talking about oil prices. If you're in a gas station niche, you better believe that affects your business all day, every day. So these types of things that you would normally just kind of, you're just like on your phone while they're talking about that, doing that little business report. You know, even though it's third-hand news by the time it gets to the 11 o'clock news, unless you get it from like CNN or Money Matters or something like that, or Wall Street Journal, where it's more direct, firsthand, it's still important to your business if this is your niche. It affects the buying and selling. Right now, ask anyone. There's 3 people in this building, commercial giants, who are crawling all over themselves looking for gas stations. They're not out there. Inventory's low because the getting is good right now. Cash flow is great with gas stations right now, so that affects inventory. If I own a gas station right now and the getting is so good, I'm not selling it. Why would I? I'm trying to collect more. And that's where you get into also a lot of these clients own, 10, 20, 40, 50, 75 gas stations. It's not just one. Because when they get into it and they own one, they're like, this is great. And where can I get another one? And it's kind of like a network. They buy and sell and trade within that network. It's rare that one falls out in an open market situation, but when they do, they're gone. We submitted an LOI, one of your new team members, Sharina, submitted an LOI for her client. He already owns, I think, 47 Chevrons, and we're trying to get him another one. He owns one on Fruit Ridge. He owns a few in the Sacramento area. We're trying to get him to maybe change out his inventory a little bit, maybe list a couple of the stations that he has, but he's also actually buying more as he's doing that as well. So we submitted an LOI, which is being reviewed as of this morning by the seller. So we'll negotiate terms and a letter of interest, and we come to terms, we'll get an escrow. Another one of your colleagues, Richard Castleman, opened escrow, I think at $4.7 million with Jason Butler of Orange County, of Orange Coast Title, yesterday they opened escrow. That's for a land purchase to build a gas station. So his clients own even more Chevrons. Everyone's leaving Chevron. They have better, and I've looked at the P&Ls for the gas stations. Chevron is a pretty good deal, so I think that's why a lot of people prefer Chevron as a franchise. They pay a higher price per gallon, I think, and they're more liberal on the approval of sites as they go. That's just my opinion from what I've had experienced personally. But
actually, any franchise, for the most part, franchise operations are a lot easier to get an approval on.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, because they put the owners through their own stringent set of approvals, kind of. So it's like if you own 47 Chevrons, that's because Chevron has vetted you 47. They love you. They're like, when you want to do a new store, like, hell yeah, okay, where? And they approve the site. They've already approved you. They vetted you. So when then you go to deal with financing, you go see someone like Lamar for financing, it's kind of like, well, if you're okay with Chevron, you're probably going to be okay with my lender, who's probably 1 millionth the size of Chevron. So probably a pretty good bet that you shouldn't have any problem being a good credit risk in terms of financing. So
for gas stations, is the real difficulty side is that you gotta find the location that is zoned to have a gas station. So is that what is not plentiful?
So no, that's plentiful. So I've provided, and the reason I gave you both examples of Sharina and Richard is that Sharina's client's buying an existing gas station in Antioch. That's a Chevron. Richard's client he's like, okay, forget trying to dig on the ground for inventory scraps. He went, and this is such a beautiful example of finding the opportunity, creating the deal. Another theme that's going to be very prevalent and common in this room. He had a client, wants gas stations. They already own over 50 Chevrons, and they have another independent branch of independent stations that they own in a convenience store chain. These people have virtually unlimited resources, and this is the arena they play in. So what he did was he saw a scrap of land, literally a scrap of land. So it's not like an acre or two, it was 15 acres, but comparatively, in what it was sitting in, it's a scrap. It had freeway frontage, it's shaped like a wedge, kind of like a piece of pie, and it's right off of an exit. So he knew his clients were looking, kind of would like to have a gas station in that vicinity, so he just was driving down the freeway, he'd passed it a couple times, he got off the freeway, looked at it, researched the ownership, came back here, got on, or this is when he was with his other office at that time, got on CoStar, and found out the ownership information. It was a farmer who owned the 200 acres behind the wedge. The city had created the wedge because it built an easement through it. So that's what created the wedge and separated that wedge from the farmer's greater parcel. You know how farms go, they farm what they can economically afford to farm, or they have different patches that grow different things that are seasonal, so sometimes you may look and there's nothing growing there. And then they've got stuff harvesting and growing over here. So it's about how much of the land are they farming. So you don't know that unless you go talk to them. So he literally approached the owners and was like, you got this wedge there, you're not really farming. And the farmer's like, well, there's a billboard there, and they give me a few $100s a month. So his little wedge was earning money because it had freeway frontage, and somebody wanted a billboard there, and one of the media companies, Entercom or whoever, is paying him a monthly ground lease to have their billboard there. So it's earning a few $100s, but he's not farming the wedge. The easement pretty much screwed that. So it's just kind of sitting there, and it's been sitting there. And he's like, well, have you ever considered selling it? I don't know, what's it worth? So he did the valuation. He's like, well, here's what the valuation is. But then he showed him that I've got a buyer, gas station owner, and it's a franchise station. They think it'd be a good place. They only need about an acre or two to do a gas station, but they'd be interested in further developing the rest of the wedge with some retail, a retail strip, because that's valuable land because it's got freeway frontage. So fast food, stuff like that. That's valuable land to business owners and businesses like that because it's got the freeway frontage. So long story short, back and forth with the LOI, got a deal, and they're buying it, for, I think he's in contract for a few million, three point something, maybe 4 million. But that's only the small part of the picture, because who's going to develop? So these clients have they've done this before. They've bought 1 or 2 acres and erected a Chevron. First of all, Chevron approves the site. Chevron will build a damn station if you want them to. You don't even have to do all that. They'll build it. So they've done this before, but they have no developer experience. They don't have that skill set. They're not builders. They're not developers. They can't build out the wedge with a retail development, their gas station, have it be like a shopping center. They can't do that. So we can. It's another service we offer under the commercial umbrella, project management. Project development, so we manage and develop your commercial project, your development project, whether it's a single family home development or whatever it is. We have those project management skills. Why? Because Robert's a developer and I am. He's done more than me, but I've built 3 subdivisions and been a fee developer on over 50 projects in West Oakland. I know how to do it. So that's a service we offer, and if you're doing the math, typically that's about 5%. 5% of the project value. So they're going to buy this land for $3 million. Let's say it costs them $15 million to develop the project, to build all the structures, the pads, the strip, the gas station, everything. It's a $15 million project. As fee developers or project management, we want 5% of that $15 million. And then guess what? That's not even the end of it. Opportunity. Because if you take them that far, once it's built, who's going to lease it up? Master leasing agent. When you're driving down the road and you see the sign that says space available, contact room, that's the master leasing agent for that whole center. Guess what? We do that too, commercial leasing. So we represent them in a fiduciary as a real estate agent to buy the land. We're doing the project management to build the vision, build out the project. And we're the master leasing agent for every square foot of leasable space in the center, except for the gas station, of course. How's that sound?
Like money.
That's called A to Z opportunity, yeah.
When building out a structure like this, do you wait for it to be built to then figure out who
Oh, God,
No, okay, so you have that set already, that you know big
no.
prices.
You're working on it. So you're doing pre-leasing or pre-sales, or you're trying to, so you have a rendering of the space and you know the type of tenants, you go after your tenants and you try to get your leases solidified before it's even done, so that people can move in as it's done. Because as soon as they move in, you get it leased up, you're earning revenue.
I would think that, like, if you were to look for financing on the side for a particular project, like, the lenders would probably be expecting certain names of tenants that would be in there already, and that would build.
Well, if you do that, it actually helps you lease out the rest of it. So in a larger center, you get what's called an anchor, like a Safeway or Big Lots or something like that. A large credit tenant would be your anchor tenant. If you can get the lease solidified with the anchor, all the other people will follow. You don't think John would use some of the other smaller regional tenants, regional franchises want to be next to Safeway? Yeah, they do, because there's thousands of people coming in there. So they benefit from that foot traffic.
Which you'll be getting processed through as they're constructing, as they're kind of getting.
Yeah, if the lease is solidified, I'm advertising, hey, we got Safeway coming in as the anchor, we got this space right next to them, probably be good for your GameStop location if so you're approaching these tenants and saying what you've got, here's the lease rate, it's a whole game. Oh, so yeah, that's something that is common. So you use what you've got to continue further marketing to get additional tenants. And once you're 100% leased, there's no better feeling in the world if you're master leasing and just sit back and be like, we're 100% leased. It's an awesome feeling. Business for sale. I'll save this for last because it's a particular niche. So right now we have a listing, the furniture store in West Sac, Big Al's Furniture. Iconic Sacramento business, been in town for 20 plus years. Actually closer to 30, close to 20 in their current location. They used to be in Midtown, but they've been an iconic Sacramento business for a very long time. They don't own the real estate they're in right now. They're in a 14 or 12 or 14,000 square foot space. They don't own the real estate, but they own the business. So we're not selling the real estate. They pay a lease. They're renters, but we're selling the business. That means the inventory, the receivables, and yes, that means you inherit the payables, but we're selling the name, the equipment. They've got a truck for delivery. It's a standard moving van, probably I think it's 20 feet that they deliver furniture. That comes with the sale. It's an Isuzu, 1998 Isuzu. So when you're evaluating that business, if you're getting that listing, we have to determine what the value of the Isuzu is. We have to know what the value of the current inventory is. We have to know what inventory is on the way. And then you've got receivables because they provide financing. So we need to know what the total of those receivables are, any cash on hand, everything. We need to know the employees, what their contracts or work for hire contracts look like. So we need to know payroll, of course, expense information, annual expenses, everything goes into evaluating the business. So I do that. I've been doing that for many, many years. I can do it relatively quickly. So it involves me having a conversation with the business owner. She turns over documents to me, gives me numbers, and I do my adds and takeaways, and I come up with a value for the business. I think we have Big Al's listed at $650. If I'm remembering correct. I got all these numbers in my head. I think we're at
Did it
$650.
reduce?
Huh?
Did it reduce?
No?
Oh, well, it was 8 something.
Oh, then you're right. Like I said, I don't remember. I know it's something 50. So it might be 850. It might be 850. The seller's willing to carry almost half. So if you've got an interested buyer who wants to come in with half the cash, or you get that financed. So even if it's financed, she will provide financing and subordinate. So she'll take a second position to your buyer's primary financing. So she's willing to do it. She's older. She's a force of nature. She's been doing this for. She's a great woman. I mean, you go in there and she's there every day, and she's running the business. She's not sitting at home collecting profit. She's there every day. She loves it. She doesn't want to sell. Her husband died 20 years ago. She's been running Big Al's on her own since then. Her son's in there now helping her, but he does the books. But she really doesn't want to part with it. Getting documents from her was like pulling teeth because she really doesn't want to sell. Her family's making her sell. It's like, look, you're 70-something, that's it. So they're making her sell, but she'd rather not. She'd rather work in there, probably keep coming there every day until she dies. But the business is for sale without the real estate, so that's a good
Makes her
example.
happy. They should let her do it.
Yeah. But no, she admits she needs to stop. She likes going to the Philippines and going back home. So she's finally at a place where she admits, okay. But you know, it's just a difficult sell because it's just the business. Most people come into it, they want the real estate. But it's an excellent, what you call, the phrase would be turnkey. It's an excellent turnkey opportunity for someone who operates a smaller furniture store, wants to grow, wants to have a bigger one, or wants to get into that genre or whatever, but it's a turnkey business. They can step into an iconic name, an iconic location. They really wouldn't have to do much to kind of market it up. It's like you just step into ownership and start selling furniture. Transaction scenarios. So you can kind of cover a little bit of this, but you can do a sale. Let's see where I'm at on time. Okay. You can do a sale, purchase. So this is you representing. This is you providing a fiduciary. You can represent an owner who's selling. So you have a business or a property listing and under the commercial scope. You can represent a buyer or an investor who wants to acquire a commercial asset or business. So you can represent the buyer. We talked about it. You can do leasing. We do commercial leasing. Michael's done that too. Anyone here besides Michael want to hazard a guess on how you get paid on a commercial for commercial leasing? I think you know too, so you can't talk about it. Anyone else?
Percentage.
Yeah, there's a percentage, just like your real estate commission would be. So here's how this works. You get paid a percentage on the total lease value. So let's go back to that earlier hypothetical I did. What was it, $2 a foot for a 2,000 square foot space? Anybody break out a calculator for me? So $2 a foot for, and it was, let's add the triple net. $2.45 per foot per month for 2,000 square feet. What's the monthly lease? The monthly cost. $2.45 times 2,000 square feet. Anybody?
48,000?
How much?
48? 48,000?
4,800 or 48,000?
49.
4,900? So for roughly $4,900?
More to
So multiply the monthly rate times 12.
annual, okay?
So to get the annual lease amount. Now, let's say that tenant, which is typical in commercial, is not 1 year or 2 years like residential. What's typical in commercial is 3, 5, 7, or 10. So the bigger clients, some of those leases, like a Safeway lease, that could be 15 to 25 years, maybe even more. Back in the day, 50-year leases were not uncommon for large national credit tenants. So let's take it down several notches. Say your average small business that would be renting a 2,000 square foot space, maybe even a Subway franchise. So let's say that's their lease. And they're going to come in, they're going to sign either a 3 or 5 year lease. Let's just say 3. Let's make it real small, basic. So, an annual lease amount of what? It was the 4,900 times 12? 40?
$2.45, and then multiply that by the square footage, then multiply that by 12.
Okay, so what'd you get?
58,000.
58,800. Now multiply that times 3 for the 3-year lease.
It's 176.
So that's like getting commissioned on a $176,000 house. So you earn whatever your percentage is. So let's say the leasing agent has a 5% lease. You're just gonna split that 50-50, no different than a house. You get 2.5% of that. It could be 6%, it could be as high as 8%, but you're splitting that with the leasing agent. All right? So now that's really basic. Now let's say that Subway shop owner wanted a 5 or 7 year lease. do the math and see what your commission would be. And by the way, it's pretty easy. It's not like a home, there are no inspections, it's pretty quick. It's just like you can do this all day, every day. It's like, wow, this is pretty easy. Finding the space can be difficult, but once you engage with the owner, there are other terms and things you gotta learn, nuances like tenant, or what they call TI, tenant improvement allowance. So that's where, if I'm a Subway shop, it's an empty shell or vanilla space, you know, I need a counter, I need a certain layout or whatever, I need certain flooring or whatever, certain things done in the back, in the kitchen or whatever, and I need to make those improvements. Before leasing or while you're negotiating, sometimes if it's more of a buyer's market, landlords will be more receptive to providing funds to improve the space and do some limited TI or tenant improvement. And that's kind of like a bonus or a benefit. When it's a tighter market, you know, not so much. But that's what TI is. But all in all, leasing is a pretty lucrative thing if you want to make that your thing. You can do that. It's one of those aspects of commercial that absolutely can be your singular focus if that's just what you want to do. And you get a master leasing agent contract, that's huge, because that means you're in a center and you are responsible. Even though you might not be the agent who leases, you earn from every square foot leased in that space, in that center.
In commercial, is the market either a buyer's market or a seller's market, depending on the type of business that's being ran, whether or not people want said
No different than residential, it's based on inventory, it's based on supply and demand. Value add, embedded value, so this is a sales scenario where you can represent, because representing in commercial, remember, is not just finding someone who wants to sell their house or wants to buy a house. Representing in commercial is you creating and packaging the deal. That's what this whole session one is getting to. It's about you recognizing opportunity and creating a deal around it and then presenting that package to would-be interested parties. You do everything. These are people who are just going about their day. They're not thinking about an opportunity where there's a wedge or a patch of dirt. They're not thinking about that. You are. You're seeing the world through these goggles. You're seeing this opportunity. You're like, huh, if we did this and did that, and then over here, and you're putting it together, you're creating the vision, and then you're representing that vision to the appropriate parties. You gotta have contacts I've got some gas station owners, I've got some builders, I've got some regional builders, I've got these people, I've got retail owners, and then over here I've got investors with a predilection for this or that or the other, and you're matchmaking. You're creating the nucleus, you're investigating who would be interested, and by the way, CoStar is a huge help and resource in this regard. And then you're presenting and modifying the package slightly, we're gonna get into it very quickly, and then presenting it and making the deal happen. Remember, commercial deals, I'm gonna say it time and time again, commercial deals don't happen to you, they will not happen for you, they happen because of you. Create it, package it, present it, get the deal. Create the opportunity. A value add is where you see a strip center like this, maybe you're driving down the road and it's half empty or it's dilapidated or it doesn't look that great, or if you can tell that leasing up this place as it is would be a challenge. But with a little bit of this and that, you create a vision and you create maybe an optimum or performer level environment with regard to cash flow and valuation. Now this building's starting to look like something. Well, first you got to talk to the person who currently owns it, see if they're interested in selling it. You got to talk to potential investors or buyers who may want to invest in it, not as is, or not as is without a vision. So I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but performa is optimal performance or projected performance. So you want to show people the as-is performance on an underperforming or undervalued asset. Then you want to show them the performa or optimal level and the comparison between the two. And then you don't want to leave it there. You want to show them a vision or a path on how you're going to get this asset to optimal performance levels. So it's no longer underperforming, that is performing. And we're gonna get to that. But that's something in terms of a niche, or, so you got a lot of investors who look for value add or embedded value opportunities. Embedded value is more like where, it can even be multi-fam or multi-tenant commercial, where the leases or rents are currently well below market rate. There's an embedded value there because it may be, you've got, the place is 80% leased up, but 60% of those leases are below market. If I can get, and they don't have long-term leases, they got like a month left, or they're month to month, or a year left, the embedded value there is that if I can get these people out, aesthetically improve the property, get people in, new tenants in at market rate rents, that's the embedded value. It takes work to get that embedded value out, but that's what embedded value is. And you, as a commercial specialist, again, seeing the world through those goggles, you've got to be able to see where there's embedded value, because a lot of times your investors don't see it. Even the property owners don't see it. They've got this going on, they've got this, they own 50 properties, they're not really thinking about it. It's collecting rent every month, and they, yeah, sure, could probably be collecting more, but sounds like a lot of work. So, you know, you bring that up, you create the vision, you show the embedded value in the plan to pull it out, the vision. Repurpose is usually market driven. So anyone know what repurpose, what I mean by repurpose the asset?
Yeah, so basically taking a property that is maybe used for one purpose, but it's failing in that area. So
Give me an example.
Oh, think here. So I guess if you have like a strip center or a strip mall, and then maybe the businesses in there are failing, and you have something that's just no longer, people aren't interested in because the market's taking a turn. And you put something that, of value in there, that another type of business, or, I say, like the mall on Sunrise Mall. So that is failing big time, the Sears Center.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe you could take that Sears Center, instead of using it as a, retail clothing store, maybe you could turn it into more of an entertainment, center.
Right. And that type of decision, or decision to do that, as it says there after the hyphenation, is usually market driven. So, and that's a good example. Another good example is if you see, even on the residential side, you see a larger home that's been vacant, larger wholesale home's been vacant, it's kind of sitting there, it's not really a performing asset for the owner at this current state. So a good repurpose is something that's trending in the market is senior care facility. And it's pretty easy to convert a large house to a cash flow producing senior care facility. Pretty easy, it's a simple renovation. Per ADA and other standards, you have to have improvements. Joelle knows a lot about this niche. It's an arena she's definitely in. So, but from an investor perspective, it's an easy conversion. So, if you're again seeing the world through those commercial specialist goggles, and you see this place, you can say, well, this thing, instead of renovating it and getting a large family in there to pay rent, the better end use would be to repurpose this building as a senior facility, senior care facility. Okay, so I'm going to package that deal. I'm going to show what the renovations necessary would be and a cost structure for those renovations. I'm going to present the value with a premium to the owner. Say, look, you could sell this place for this, but if we can repurpose it and show that vision, I can do that. I've got senior care facility owners or people who want to invest in that space. Right now, I can get you this. So market value plus a premium. I'm like, really? Really? Okay. Go ahead. Let me see what you can do. Now you've got the listing. You go over here, you've already talked to the guy. You don't wait until you get the listing. You already talked to the guy. He's like, yeah, I'd be interested. It's a great location. It's a good house. Got some good old bones. If we can renovate it per your vision, that sounds good. I could probably carve out maybe 7 rooms. I can rent each one of those rooms for X number of dollars. X number of those rooms is gonna generate X number or Y number of revenue for me on a monthly basis. Here's what my monthly cash flow and annual cash flow looks like on a performer if I can convert this per your plan. Good job, dude. Go make it happen. Here's what I'm willing to pay. Now you've sold the listing, you've represented both, so you double-ended the deal, and everybody's happy. The owner got more than he thought he could get for his property, and by the way, it was just sitting there as a liability for him anyway. The buyer got an excellent addition to their little collection of senior care facilities. They got another one to add to it. I gave them a plan for renovation. Maybe they'll let me be the project manager as well, so I can earn some fees there and help them lease it out, maybe lease it up. But either way, at the very minimum, I got a double-ended deal on a large house.
Now, are you also doing any rezoning?
Sometimes that's necessary, but that's part of the value you bring in terms of the development. So as a project development manager, you would handle that. So you would investigate with the city. And you, by the way, you'd want to do this as you're creating a vision for turning this property to both parties, you're presenting that to both parties, you want to have already done the diligence on it. You want to have already contacted the city to make sure that that end use for that location is okay. You don't want to present them with a project plan or a vision that is not realizable because the city will not allow that end use in that location. You want to have already done that. That's what presenting the deal means. You've ironed out, you've done your diligence, you're presenting a solid, workable, viable deal. Investor objectives, so you're going to want to know people. And you're going to want to be able to categorize your database of investors and buyers and capital partners or whomever, and you want to categorize them based on what their objectives are. Some investors just want cash flow. They're income focused. How much money am I going to get per rent or per month minus my expenses? What's my net cash flow going to be? They're just collecting cash flow. They want to increase their monthly cash flow by adding assets, cash flow assets. So maybe they're getting $2,500 a month from this asset, $5,500 a month from this asset, $750 a month from this asset. They're just accumulating cash flow. That's their bottom line. It's like, I don't care what the property's worth really because I'm not going to sell it. I'm just going to collect a rent every month. I want cash flow. Give me cash flow. Give me cash. Equity focus. Some are collecting assets because of the equity, whereas the cash flow, they like it, but it's not their primary focus. How much equity is there? Can I get this below, can I purchase it at a valuation below market? They're collecting equity, and most of the investors who are doing that are collecting equity to leverage that equity to make other investments, to pull out cash. Lamar, you can attest to that. Value add, again, we talked about on the previous screen, some investors, this is their whole focus. Show me stuff where there's value add opportunity or embedded value that I can pull out and make a profit on the back end. Basically, commercial asset flippers. Developers, builders, land developers, of course. So like the listings that we're dealing with right now, we've got 9 acres in Wheatland, we've got 4.5 acres in Lincoln. That's for density there is 12 homes per acre, I think. And then we've got 22.3 acres in Alberta with a possibility to build 156 homes on that site. We've got 80 South Avenue, which is a final map with conditions. We've got Loomis, which is a 20-plus acre site for luxury homes of like 5,000 to 7,000 square feet in a gated community. So you're going to get 5 lots only out of that. And I had to stretch and talk to the city about a variance on the lot density to get the 5th lot because it was only 4. So fortunately I did that. So we haven't gone through that rezoning or variation process, but a modification on the zoning is something I asked about and was told that they would be amenable to that. It would not be a problem. So now I'm marketing it as a 5-home development, not a 4, because I made a phone call.
Who did you make a phone call to again?
I contacted the city.
Oh.
The just contact the city and you talk to the building department, permits department, the different names for different jurisdictions, but you find out, you know, who the appropriate party is to talk to about zoning. Sometimes it's the zoning office, you know, and you're just asking a question. Sometimes you gotta go down there, you can't do it on the phone. I'm used to going down there, but you always start with a phone call, because sometimes in the modern era, back in the day when I started, there was no phone. I mean, they had phones, I'm not that old, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, they didn't handle business over the phone. The clerks would answer the phone and say, well, you're gonna have to come down. So you just got used to just getting in your car and going down there and asking your questions, looking at microfiche or whatever, and just asking your questions. Nowadays, most of them are set up where they can handle your questions on the phone because they can pull up the information on the computer right in front of them. They don't have to delve into microfiche to get the answer. They can just, yeah, okay. And they can look at zoning, prospective zoning, allowances, modifications, variances, things would be allowed or that they would be amenable to that are already documented in their system that would be favorable. So if you're looking at a lot and you're thinking a better use would be a rezoning to a higher density, so I can get more homes on there, or get it from a single family designation to multifamily designation. That's very attractive to a lot of different investors. So you've got to know your investors' perspectives and present them with opportunities that make sense logistically for them. And just by the way, I should back up, land development, you all know what that means, right? It doesn't mean that you're building something. So when you take a piece of raw land, like we've got a couple, I can show you by comparison. So take South Avenue as compared to Lincoln. You got 4.5 acres in Lincoln, raw land. You got about the same, 4.5 to 5 acres on South Avenue, North Sacramento, not raw land, developed land. But you ride by and it's just dirt. You're like, this isn't developed. Oh yeah, it is. That's land development. So in Lincoln, they have a kind of like a tentative proposal with the current given density of 6 to 12 homes per acre. What's 4.5 times 12? Anybody?
Uh, 54.
54? Yeah, so you can build 54 homes on that Lincoln site. 55 single-family homes on the 4.5 acres in Lincoln. That's already good density. I've got one buyer who's interested who would like a higher density. I'm like, dude, you're crazy. But, you know, it's, and then the thing, you develop marketing points about each parcel. So that parcel is highly marketable because 360 degrees around it is development. One's a huge commercial development. They're already under construction. Just adjacent to that, this is behind the property, just adjacent to that, next to the Turkey Creek Golf Course, they have an approved subdivision for 400 homes. That's already under construction. I mean, you're not building the houses, but they're grading the land. So it's already underway. And the 4.5 acre parcel that we're representing sits right here. And there's another development here and adjacent here as well. So as I market it, this is clearly in the path of development. It's the very definition of in the path of development. So you look at, by comparison, you look at the 80 South Avenue parcel. There's nothing there. It looks the same, looks like dirt, but it's fully developed because we have a final map. That means they've gone through tentative map for a tentative subdivision map. That tentative map was approved. Conditionally approved, here's this, that, whatever. So those are the conditions that you would need to advance this from tentative map to final map. Your engineer, and civil engineer, is going to work with you and do that. And by the way, that costs money. And then you're preparing your final map submission. You submit for final map. You get that approved, sometimes as we did here with conditions. But it's an approved final map to build 35 homes on this parcel. So now, what's that cost? It's like flipping land. Land developers are flippers too. They buy raw dirt. They're professional and skilled at doing and navigating the entitlement and permitting process. They get they get what their engineer team, they develop tentative maps, they submit and get those approved. They take it all the way to final map, develop and get those approved, and then they sell it. Because let's say they bought it for 1.2 million, fully entitled at final map, they can sell it for 4 million. No joke. And the investment, by the way, isn't 3 million. The investment to get something from raw land to final map, maybe a few $100,000. But it's time. So if I'm the next guy buying it, I'm buying it at final map stage, you save me 8-9 months. I can take final map to finished lot in a few months and start building homes. Or guess what? I can buy final map, meet the conditions, maybe it's a conditional final map approval, and then get it to final or finished lots, which means I've got to put in some horizontal infrastructure. Sidewalk, curb, gutter, roadways, I've got to trench in my wet and dry utilities, which is drainage, water, cable, and electricity. Tie those in at the street, trench those in appropriately to the pads. Now I've got paper lots or finished lots. I can sell those individual lots, or I can sell the whole project and representing it as I've got 35 paper lots ready to build. That's land development. If I bought that at $4 million at final map from the guy who got it for 1.2, it's like, how far do you want to carry the ball? Every yard you carry the ball is worth value in the resale. So if I bought it for $4 million at final map and I took it through in 3 months to paper lot, I can sell the whole project now for $6.5 million. I make $2.5 million. Again, my investment was probably from from final map to finished lot. I've got to do infrastructure improvements, a lot of concrete. Got to do trenching and tie-in. You pay for that per linear foot. So you want to know how close to your tie-ins are. Maybe it's 500 feet. Well, that's going to cost me X number of dollars per foot to trench and tie in my utilities, wet and dry. That expense still is maybe only $500,000, if that, on a larger project. Well, I bought it for 4, I'm selling it for 6.5. I think I've profited sufficiently. That's land development. And you got a whole niche of people out there who just love to do that. They don't want to build a damn thing, but they'll take raw land, entitle it, and resell it. Those are land developers. So if you can get with those guys, like Michael's already done, he's been a great one. He does nothing but, although he's trying, he's like a squirrel. He's like, you know, we saw senior care facilities. He's like, oh, he's chasing that. But, you know, we got to remind this guy, hey, you've been doing this for 20 years, land development. You made all your money in land development. Why are you now chasing senior care facilities? Focus, dude. Focus. So that's part of his job. He's his commercial specialist representative. Get him back on focus, get him back on point. Remind him where he made his money. You've got several opportunities you can present to him right now for land development. We've got Lincoln, we've got Alberta, 156 homes. He can make $3, $4, maybe $5 million in Alberta. And he can do that in 9 months, under 9 months. Land development is huge. Because the value is because if I'm the builder, if I'm CEC who's building our Morrison Ave estates around the corner from South, or Riverland Home Builders based in Granite Bay, if I'm those guys and I have an opportunity to come in and buy final map or finished lots, all I have to do is come in and start building. That means I'm marketing homes. I've got my sales office and my elevations. I take my elevations and basically the drawings for the house. I take those to DR or design review, get them approved, and start selling. I create pretty brochures, and here's the floor plan, here's what the house looks like, and I start selling these damn lots. Now, not 8 months from now. Not 14 months from now, not 18 months from now, right now, because I purchased paper lots. Those are called build-ready lots, meaning I can come in, their horizontal improvements are in, so they're ready for what's called vertical build-out. Vertical, I'm building houses now, vertical, and I can start tomorrow. I buy it today, close escrow, I can start building my homes tomorrow, as long as I've gone through design review, got the designs approved, architecturally approved, aesthetically approved for the area or whatever basis design review is using, I can start building immediately. A design review approval can take 45 days, 30, 45 days. And that includes you getting your architect to do the rendering. So maybe 30 days there, maybe 15, 20 days for design review with the city. And once you get your designs approved, you can start building. That afternoon, if you want, you're approved. Then you gotta get your building permits, obviously, to start, laying foundations, your inspection schedules and all that, but the point is you can start selling.
I have
So,
a question.
yeah.
What's the difference between, medium to high density with the women?
So density is zoning. So, for example, our Lincoln asset is currently zoned for 6 to 12 homes. That's high density for 4.5 acres. So that's 6 to 12 homes per acre. So on 1 acre, the allowable density is 12 houses. That's pretty high density. Not the highest. The higher density would even still would be multifamily. So if you have a density that's even higher than that, they're not talking about single-family detached homes. They're talking about maybe single-family attached, like a townhome or row house type thing, or a multifamily complex, even in the higher densities. So by comparison, I think the South Avenue property is 35 homes on roughly the same amount of acreage, 4.5. So that's a lower density. And it's just about the zoning. It can be on the area where the city, in their specific or general plan, has decided that right here, along this swash or path, we want medium density. Over here, we'll accept high density multifam, but not that much. And over here, we want very low density estate type homes on a half acre or more. So 1 or 2 homes per acre. That's a low density. So it's about density of homes, literally what it says, how many you can fit. And they usually do it per acre. And that's an investor objective. You have some investors who only want high density property. And then you have others who want to build estate homes in gated community, like our Loomis listing. That's a low density. We're only going to get 5 homes on 21.2 acres.
Yeah.
So that's a low density in a higher value market. So you're going to get 5 homes. And like I said, I called the city to make sure that a variance was acceptable to them, because initially they were talking about, I think it was, they wanted each lot to be 4.67 acres, 4.67 acres per lot, or something of that nature. I was like, well, can we get a variance down to 4.5? I think it was a 4.45 to make it work mathematically. And they said, sure. And I checked with the supervisor, he said, sure. Now, that variance from 4.67, I think it was, down to 4.45, multiplied across, allowed us to get an extra lot. So now, and these are $2.5 million homes resulting, by the way, so an extra lot is an extra $2.5 million on the retail side. So it was important in the marketing for me to be able to say, because investors are savvy. They go, well, I checked out the current zoning. You're saying 5 lots. I checked out the current zoning, and it only allowed for 4. And I said, no, but I've already contacted the city, and I got it double verified that variance down to 4.45 would be acceptable, and no problem whatsoever. Oh, okay. Well, there's your 5th lot. Now this parcel becomes a little bit more attractive because I can get 5 homes on it. I can get 5 multi-million-dollar homes on here instead of 4. And it really doesn't change the layout at all. It's just adding an extra lot, because they're like wedges, and you kind of consolidate this one a little bit, this one. By the time you get to the end, you can add a 5th. And that's what we did. So we didn't physically do it, but we physically paved the way for it, and with an understanding that it'd be perfectly acceptable to file for this variance. Yeah.
I've been on CoStar probably once or twice, and I had noticed a property that was listed, and it said preferred use, if I'm not mistaken, or preferred type, single family homes. or something like that. Now, does that come from the city?
Yeah.
Is that where this come from? Okay, but it sounds suggestive.
Yeah, so what it is that the owner or the listing agent or whomever they've looked at it, maybe this parcel is per a general or specific plan that the city's already laid out. So their preferred usage is this, but they are amenable to rezones or change of end use. So that means that it's not locked in stone, basically. It's a marketing attempt to basically convey that this is the preferred use, and if you're gonna think about doing a land development deal or whatever, and entitling the property along those lines, probably the path of least resistance, because that's the city's preferred use. If you wanna deviate from that and create some other type of use, amenable, but maybe not the path of least resistance. You may experience some resistance along the entitlement path. So the city's got to prefer, this is what they would like to see there. It could be the density they'd like to see. You can rezone and try and get a higher density because that's what you prefer. Usually what wins out is what the city prefers, but it's negotiable. Portfolio investors. Man, if you guys get one of these, I'm moving in with you. This is huge. So portfolio investors are, they're usually not buying for themselves, obviously. They're a fund manager who's in charge of a hedge fund, a spider fund, whatever, or a REIT, or a pension fund. And they're purchasing for the fund. So they're literally collecting assets for equity. Their equity or value focused mainly to add value to the fund. Cash flow is important, and that adds value, but they're equity-based portfolio investors, so they're buying on large scale, typically larger assets, entire subdivisions or multifamily complexes. So these guys have basically been tasked with investing $75 million per quarter, maybe $25 million per quarter, whatever. And that's what they set out to do. And they have mandates to do so in multifamily or multi-tenant commercial or single-tenant commercial or retail triple net or retail centers as opposed to strips. They have a charge. Sometimes they are determining what that is. Sometimes they have a board of directors which is determining what that is, and it can change quarterly. So first quarter, they've got $25 million to invest in Sacramento area triple net. Maybe next quarter, they've got another $25 million to invest in Placer County area senior care facilities. That's how they buy. But your job is to develop a B2B relationship with the fund managers, so that when they're looking to buy, they tell you what they're looking for, you go out and basically bird dog those assets, come back, they'll buy them. Like that. They clearly don't have a problem qualifying. A lot of them are just paying cash. It's like, where do we wire this money? What escrow? Where'd you open escrow? Wire the money in, you get commission. Albeit sometimes you should expect a discounted commission, you're not gonna earn a full 3%, not likely. But look at how much they're buying. I'll take 1.5%. If I can help them spend any part of their $25 million per quarter, I'll take 1.5%, 2%. I'll be quite happy.
So we need to be courting a portfolio investor.
Yes. Yes. Take them to play golf, offer them invitations to the Elk Grove Racket Club, go there and kick their heels up or get them a massage or do something. But yeah, introduce yourself, give out your cards, develop your list, your SOI of these folks, and start building your B2B relationships in this regard. They got a lot of people like you doing it, so it's not going to happen overnight, but just be the one, bring value. Service types, this is the value you add. So we're talking about niches or where you bring value. So you have picked an area, you're going to develop your skill set in that regard, and then you're going to market that skill set. Very specifically market that very specific skill set. So whether you're a listing specialist, acquisition specialist, meaning you work with buyers, investors, commercial leasing agent, we talked about that. And you don't have to be the master leasing agent. If you represent, you want to be a leasing agent, you can represent people who want to lease space. Michael's done that a few times. And you're talking about dealing with mainly small business owners who need to expand their current space, or and this is again recognizing with those goggles, recognizing opportunity, because maybe you go to lunch somewhere and you're like, man, this place is small, it's packed, the food here is great. They would do awesome in a larger space. Don't pay your tab and get up and leave a nice tip. Ask your waitress, hey, who's the owner here? You guys have great food, you got a lot going on. Is it normally packed like this? The waitress will be able to tell you, because he or she is, working their butt off to to serve those tables. Ask him. Yeah, we're all, man, this is like all day, every day. Yeah, you guys don't have a lot of space. No, we're even more cramped in the kitchen. Oh, who's the owner? Oh, that's him right over there. Get up and go talk to him. Ask the waiter, if he's got a moment. You guys are crazy busy, but maybe I can get a moment of time, or at least give him my card and see if I can call him later or come back later when you guys are closing up or dead. Get in front of him. Because guess what? He's in his business. Michael Gerber, in his book, The E-Myth, he talks about a principle where you're so focused, you're working in your small business and not on it. If you're focused and buried in the deluge of working in your small business, that means you're the operator. No one's working on the business from the bird's eye. Business development, looking for new opportunities, thinking about, okay, we're clearly cramped as hell in here, we need a bigger space. You don't have time to deal with that because you're working inside the business. You got things going around you all day. You got glasses dropping, waiters quitting, you're running the business. You don't have that kind of time or focus. So get in front of them, say, I'm crazy busy, you're clearly in the business here. So I'm a real estate agent. I particularly specialize in commercial leasing, and it looks like you guys could use a bigger space. I happen to have some ideas of where you guys might do well with this restaurant. Have you ever thought about a move to a larger space? Yeah, in the 30 seconds per day I have free, I've thought about it. Okay, well, yeah, I get you're completely busy. How about if I could present you with some opportunities for a larger space and just bring them back at a time when you have time to just kind of sit and look through them, right back and even send them to you electronically. Yeah, sure, go ahead. Yeah, I'm busy. So you get their contact information, or you get a time to come back. You hit the computer and you find some available leasing. Find out what you can. He's busy. Find out where. Maybe in the same area. Maybe you thought about a move to Roseville, or even a second location, not just moving this location. You generated that. Create the opportunity for the business. The business happens because of you in commercial. Not for you or to you. It happens because of you. So now you find a space, you set a space, maybe he's crammed into 1,500 feet, you got him a place, maybe he's renting in South Sacramento, and you find him a place in Roseville, 2,200 square feet, gets to grow and expand, but he doesn't have to give up his first location, which is thriving. Why would you? Now we're talking about a second restaurant. So you lease that space in, you represent him or her in that lease. But guess what? After that, or as a result of that, they're gonna need financing maybe. So you bring in your commercial finance partner who can provide the financing for that business expansion. That second store, that second location is gonna require financing. You're gonna have a whole, especially for a restaurant, you're gonna have a whole host of TI, need tenant improvements in that restaurant space. And that requires financing. So I can show you this vision where you can add a second place. You weren't even thinking about it. You were just in here every day humping. You weren't even thinking about it. I brought this vision because I'm a commercial specialist and that's what I do. Created this vision where you're opening a second restaurant, you're thriving in Roseville. Of course, fair market rent rates are a little bit higher in Roseville than you're paying in South Sac, but guess what? Roseville diners, you can charge them more than you're charging in South Sac. You can elevate your menu, elevate your business. There's an embedded value there in a move or expansion to a second location in Roseville. Here's what that looks like, and here's what it's going to cost. And guess what? I work with a partner who can provide you the financing for this move. Create value. You create value and bring it to them. Development, constellation, now again, these are things that we can do, we can represent. And I know you guys, I shouldn't assume, but I don't think any of you guys have actually developed anything before, but as I said, I have multiple subdivisions, multiple opportunities as a fee developer where it wasn't my project, I was paid to develop or be the project manager. A lot of it in West Oakland back in the day when I was going through gentrification. My brother and I did a lot of homes there. We were military and government specialists and contractors, 8A developers. We did military housing in Camp Parks in Dublin. done manufactured housing developments in East Palo Alto, did a land development deal in Gulp on Ayers Lane, right off of 99, 10 acres there. So I know what I'm talking about. Everything I'm talking to you about, I've done. So, because you're on this team, as I've always told you guys, whatever expertise the team has, you have. You don't have to be out there and have an opportunity to get a 5% commission or earn a 5% bump on a $15 million development project and say, yeah, that's outside of my wheelhouse, I can't do that. I can help you buy the place, but damn, I can't help you build it. Why not? Why leave that much money on the table? You absolutely come back where you tell them, yes, we can do that. My company actually does that. We provide project management and development services and consultation. Oh, yeah. So we provide that value. It's a value add. So once you get them engaged, you're going to buy the land. You bring them in here. They meet with me, meet with Robert, and we put together a plan for the project management.
I don't know if we do it, but that guy called me yesterday from, we met on LinkedIn. Their company does a lot of lending on equipment for
Mhm.
different equipment.
It's called equipment finance.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I don't know if we do that.
Lamar? No.
Okay, so I don't contact them.
Yeah. But the value you bring is maybe not doing the service in-house here, but maybe the value you bring is you can connect them to those types of providers. So you develop a Rolodex, if that's even something people still do, but you develop a Rolodex of potential contacts in each of these sectors or spaces so that when you have a client with a need, the value you bring is that I can help you fill that need. I can bring service providers to the table who can help you with that. Master leasing agent we covered, commercial property management. So after the place is 100% leased, you're the property manager. It's just like residential property management. If you're a commercial property manager, then so let's say it's a retail center. You were the master leasing agent because you helped build it. So now you're the master leasing agent, it's 100% leased. Who's going to manage the property? Well, now you provide commercial property management services. So that's just like residential property management. When there's a vacancy, it needs to be filled, you do that, you handle the day-to-day stuff, you're the property manager. That's another service we can provide under our commercial division. Business broker. Dealing with one of those right now. God love them, I hate them, but the reality is they stick themselves, they insert themselves in the middle. A lot of times in a gas station environment, you'll find them, they're business brokers. They're licensed agents, so you use your license to do the same thing, and you're just basically middlemaning the deal. So, and a lot of times the business brokers that are out there in the world are doing it for a flat fee. We're dealing with one now on our Chevron buy, $5.4 million. Business broker is getting a flat fee from the seller. The seller is not paying a commission, so we have to get our commission from the buyer, which is no problem. We agree to 2%. 2% of 5.4 million, not a bad day at the office.
Business brokers are a good source of referrals, not to mention franchise business brokers.
Yeah. Especially for you, because they the finance referrals, yeah.
Even for the purchase, a lot of times, they have a client who's looking for specific, ventures.
They want you to bring a
properties,
buyer.
and if you're a real estate agent, it's an excellent source to tap into. Because, for example, using franchise business brokers, they'll approve, the building and whatnot and even the acquisition of it, but a lot of times finding the property is where they need the real estate agent.
Right. Agreed. Recognize opportunity. I've been talking about it this entire session. Wearing the goggles of a commercial specialist. I think by now you guys have an idea of what I'm talking about. Develop the mindset to spot it. This is what you've got to do to become a commercial specialist. You've got to develop a mindset. You got to, as I said before, you got to have like a paradigm shift in how you view the world. Starting when you walk out of here today. Get in your car, you're leaving, you're at the red light, look to your right, look to your left. See opportunity, whether it's a patch of raw land. It's like, I wonder what the hell's going on with that. Just been sitting here fenced in for years with cyclone fencing. Or a building. I wonder what they're going to do there. I wonder who owns that. I can envision a much better use for that. Or maybe it's half rented, you recognize it immediately as an underperforming asset. What would the performer look like on this if it was 100% leased and aesthetically improved? Wow. See opportunity. Know that because you've got, like Rich did, you've got gas station owners or who already own multiple gas stations and want to accumulate more, but inventory's low, but they don't have any problem buying land and titling and building their gas stations. They've done that before. So you're driving down the freeway and you see a patch of land, you're like, that would probably work for them. Let's go see. And just start talking to folks. So viewing the world around you differently. See opportunity where others do not or cannot. If you're in that red light scenario, I bet you the car in front of you, the 3 cars behind you, they're not looking at that raw land. They're looking at like, oh, look at the dog taking a crap over there. They see the world differently. And you know, until yesterday, maybe you were looking at the dog taking a crap too. But now hopefully you'll go out there and you'll look at the land and wonder, I wonder. So the skill set to evaluate it, meaning that, just like I said, you see the land, you're going to evaluate that as an opportunity by knowing that you've got someone who could put a gas station. That would be a good location for a gas station, or a fast food restaurant pad, or a retail strip, or a better use for this would be a senior care facility instead of a struggling 5-bedroom house. So the skill set to evaluate the opportunity, understanding real estate assets in the market. Like we said, repurposing is mainly market driven. What's trending in the market is these senior care facilities. Recognize that, understand that, so that when you see that dilapidated 5 or 6 bedroom house that's just struggling, you know that the market is calling for, trending for senior care facilities. See that, know that, understand the market, understand these market driven opportunities. The vision to package the deal. You've got to have the vision to put the deal together. And this is all what I've been saying even just a second ago. You've got to have that vision. Connecting the not so obvious dots. Like I said, other people won't see this. Even your investors and sellers and buyers won't see it. They don't see it. You've got to see it. Know the, shouldn't pass that one on. Knowing the origins of profit and the elements of benefit. Knowing the origins of profit and the elements of benefit. So understanding if you're looking at an opportunity or potential opportunity, understand where the value is in it, understand the origins of the profit. So in order to make this opportunity, this wedge of land, in order to make it valuable, where's the money coming from? Where is the income opportunity? How can I create or generate or show or display or present the income opportunity to my people, to my potential players? The elements of benefit, so it's not always cash. Sometimes it's just in-use benefit. It's value-added opportunity. The ability to maybe not take something in a land development deal, for example, maybe not to take it all the way through, but to take it to a point and then sell it. Buy it here, carry it to here, and then sell it for this. So understanding, just having a deeper understanding of all of this, and you're going to get that in this training. Grow your commercial real estate SOI. Identify the most likely players per category. So you've got, hopefully all of you've got databases and SOIs. You need to recategorize them to get into this commercial thing. So if your SOI doesn't include such people, you need to expand your SOI. It's that simple. If you don't know these people, go out there and introduce yourself to them. Find them, introduce yourself to them as a commercial specialist. Deeper categorization of your database, so allowing for diversity. So this is, as I've hopefully showed you and demonstrated to you, illustrated to you, that commercial is such a diversified, niche-y, nuanced thing. There's lots of different elements, aspects, and there's lots of, thanks Jim.
Yeah.
Next week.
Next week.
lots of different areas where you can excel, you can place yourself, lots of niches you can exploit. Determine where you want to play. So create those niches in your database. So don't just have a category for investors. You know, go back to the investor objective slide and have categorization in your database for those investors based on their investment objectives, the footprint they wish to have as an investor. Modify your prospecting activities accordingly. Meaning you're not going to find these people the same way you find residential prospects. You know, you're not going to walk a farm and knock on doors per se. You're not going to hold open houses and help buyers walk in. It's prospecting, but you've got to change not just your mindset, that paradigm shift of how you see the world. You've got to change how you run your business to present and be a commercial specialist. Where and how are you meeting your prospects? Michael goes to a lot of networking events, real estate mastermind groups and stuff like that. These folks are there among other places. You gotta find them. They're not just gonna call you because you put on your website or your social media page, you added, I'm a commercial specialist. Your phone's not gonna start ringing with commercial opportunities. Again, commercial doesn't happen to you. It won't happen for you, it happens because of you. Leading the horse to water, that's what we're doing here. To a degree, hell yeah, we're gonna make them drink. Because we're not doing all this work and developing all this opportunity and the vision to lead them there and say, I don't get it. No, you're gonna get it. And it's gonna taste good. And here's how. You gotta make them do it. I don't need to force them, you can't make them, spend their money, but you can make them see the vision. Create your commercial specialist identity. This is important, guys. This is something you can all begin to do today. If you really want to do this, modify your LinkedIn page, modify your Facebook business page, or create a second Facebook business page just for commercial. Start posting commercial content. Introduce yourself as a commercial specialist. If you've got another round of business cards coming up, add that designation to your business card. Commercial specialist, commercial real estate or commercial RE specialist. It's not a certification. It's just an area you've chosen to make your area of specialty. You can absolutely put that on your business card, your email signatures, everywhere. Create this identity, everywhere. Use your commercial resource to do this. You've already got it. If you guys have gone through Robert's commercial training and you're internally certified, then you've gotten the commercial tab added to your Berkshire Resource Center. Go in there, check it out. It's a ridiculous amount. It's a whole nother library. If you weren't already impressed with the marketing library in the Resource Center, understand that there's a whole nother marketing library just for commercial. It's just as big. So a lot of the commercial identity creation that you're going to do on social media platforms and email and your CRM, your drip marketing campaigns, a lot of it you can get on the commercial, under the commercial tab in your Resource Center. Create your online persona and interactions, and that means engage with people as a commercial specialist. Origins of commercial success. We're almost done here. I think this is the next to the last slide. Commercial success is based on best disposition and best end-use strategies. Any confusion as to what that means? It's about looking at a property that's got a current end use and saying a better end use for this parcel or this project or this property would be this. That's where the opportunity is found in commercial. Understanding the assets, the true potential, their true potential in the market, not as they sit, but as they could be. Asset potential is directly related to the market. I think we covered that. Matching the vision to the appropriate key players. Remember that categorization, that newfound categorization in your database? Well, if you've got it categorized like that, then relatively quickly, you can match visions and potential deals and packages and projects with likely potential players who would have an inclination to receive it well or have an interest in it. So know your prospects, develop good prospect files. So you meet a woman or a couple when they're in there and they say they're investors. Well, what's your investment footprint? What are your objectives as investors? What arena or space do you play in as investors? Okay. Then by presenting different opportunities to them where they say, nah, that's not really in our wheelhouse. No, that's too big for us. No, we like the higher density. You're finding out more information. As you get more and gain more and glean more info about your prospects in your database, add that stuff in your database. Add notes. And then recategorize them if necessary based on the newfound information. If you've got to jump them from one category to the next because of something new you discovered about their investment footprint or objectives, then do so. Maybe they fit in 2 categories. Maybe they do land development and want to do senior care facilities like Michael's dog chasing the squirrel. So that person will belong in 2 categories. So this means it's not going to happen the day you meet them at a real estate event, but as you engage with them, correspond with them, meet with them, get to know them better, you're going to get more information about them. As you get that information, you are fleshing out or creating better, thicker, richer, more content-rich prospect files. The more you know about someone, the better you can serve their objectives. And ultimately, that's where you bring value, is proving that you can serve their specific objectives, no matter how specific they are. Some real estate agents are intimidated by greater specificity. They're like, he's like way too high maintenance. He's like so narrow. Well, other true commercial specialists who are successful view that filtration as an opportunity to serve them better, because now you know exactly what they want. When you package a deal, you see a vision, you go to a red light, you put it all together, and you say, that is exactly him. Here you go. 1 in a million. I found and created and packaged exactly what you're looking for. And I know that no other real estate agent has come to you with anything like this. You're right. I've never seen this created from that before. Awesome. I'll take it. How can I get into it? How do we pursue this? Because you created, because you had great specificity on what they wanted, what their objectives were, what their true desire as an investor or an investment footprint was, and you're able to fill it because of that specificity. So don't be intimidated by it, because it's not like you're going to hear that and you're going to go out and try and find that. That'll drive you crazy. But develop that file, that investor prospect file, develop that information, have that knowledge about that prospect, so that when that deal comes across, you're like, I got the perfect guy for that. Wow. And that's how you bring value and make it work. Categorize based on known inclinations, objectives, and predilections, business interests, business profile, footprint, the individual's need or logistics for future growth, expansion, or consolidation. Big house furniture. Family wants her to retire. Maybe the prospective buyer, they're in a furniture store and they're overgrowing it. They need more space, bigger inventory. Maybe they're struggling to make a name. They could jump in a turnkey situation where the business has a name. That's an opportunity for them. The restaurant owner in the hypothetical I gave a few moments ago, who's thriving in this crammed 1,500 square foot space. Obviously, they need to either expand and get the hell out of there or open a second location. That is an expansion, that is an example of knowing their need or the logistics of future growth or expansion of that business or business owner. If you know that, as I said, the more you know, the better you can serve their objectives. Everyone agree on that? So that's it. That was session 1. And the theme is, as I've been saying, and you will continue to hear me say, commercial deals don't happen to you. Commercial deals don't happen for you. Anyone want to hazard a guess what the last one is? Thanks for coming. Session 2 next week.